Since the mid-20th century, whispers have lingered about a carnival that vanished in the 1930s. Whenever a blood moon climbs the sky, a strange music seeps across the abandoned fields, discordant, lilting, impossible to place. The curious who pass through the gate will find lights glowing, rides turning, and performers smiling with hollow mirth. But every game demands its price, and the final prize is to become an eternal act in the Carnival of Shadows. Wendun. Alex Carter was no stranger to strange rumors. As a freelance journalist, he had chased stories of haunted houses, lake monsters, even the lingering curses of forgotten towns. Yet, the tale that drew him into the Appalachian hills unsettled him more than the rest. A carnival that vanished in the 1930s, reappearing only beneath the glow of a blood moon. He did not come alone. Beside him was Maggie Holt, a photographer who had followed him through many hunts for the bizarre. Together they drove the worn car along winding mountain roads, the horizon bleeding red, as if the sky itself were leaking thin, diluted blood. The field where the carnival was said to rise stretched out in desolate silence, nothing but brittle grass the color of ash. No banners, no stalls, no trace of celebration, only a silence so heavy it seemed to swallow their breath. Alex checked his watch. The lunar eclipse was minutes away from its darkest point. They waited. A sudden wind swept the plain, lifting dust into twisting columns. From the emptiness came a sound, low, warped, unmistakably brass, as though a trumpet were groaning from deep underground. Red light washed across the field, and from nowhere a gate materialized, its frame a curve of rusted black iron. Above it hung a sign that shimmered unnaturally, Black Carnival. Alex held his breath. Maggie raised her camera, but through the lens there was nothing solid. Only shapes writhing like shadows that refused to be captured, as though the place rejected being recorded. Beyond the gate, faint lights flickered. A wooden carousel creaked to life, horses moving in slow circles. Children's laughter echoed faintly, though the field was empty of children. The air was thick with sweetness, like spun sugar left too long in the heat, clashing with the sharp tang of something metallic and rotten. Alex felt his pulse hammer in his throat. This was no folk tale. Something real had risen from the void before them. He turned to Maggie. No words passed, only a single grim nod. The gate creaked open, and their first step inside the Black Carnival rang out like a binding vow, one from which no one ever turned back. Nee. The air inside the carnival was heavy with sweetness, but the sweetness choked like smoke, burnt sugar laced with the bite of rust. Along the midway, booths glowed with sickly yellow bulbs, colors bright at first glance, yet collapsing on closer inspection into warped wood and peeling paint. From somewhere unseen, a brass band wheezed out broken notes, the melody lurching between low groans and sharp shrieks, never finding rhythm. Out of the haze, a towering man appeared, cloaked in black and white stripes. His face was hidden beneath a cracked mask, only his eyes exposed, burning like furnace coals. When he spoke, his voice rattled through the air as if funneled through a broken loudspeaker. Welcome, new guests. Come play with us. Every game carries its own reward. Alex and Maggie exchanged a wary glance. Curiosity gnawed at Alex, pulling him toward the ring toss booth. Rows of glass bottles waited, their throats impossibly narrow. He tossed the first ring, and against all odds, it landed. A stuffed bear, threadbare and sagging, was pressed into his hand. But as Alex gripped the prize, pain tore through his finger. His pinky nail snapped free, blood welling. The bear absorbed it instantly, its fabric staining dark red before drying, the color sinking into its seams like a permanent scar. Maggie recoiled, but the masked man only let out a jagged laugh. "Every prize must be paid for. You have already agreed." Defiant, Maggie stepped to the strength tester. She swung the mallet down, and the gauge's needle shot to the top. Lights burst in a sudden flare. Her prize was a porcelain doll, already fractured with hairline cracks. The moment she lifted it, her palm split open, as though the skin had been peeled away in a single strip. Blood smeared across the doll's porcelain face, seeping into its lips until they gleamed crimson. Alex yanked her back, his heart hammering. He understood now. Every carnival game here was fed by flesh and blood. The prizes were no trinkets at all, but parasites feeding on what the players lost. From deeper within the carnival, the music surged, drums and horns, urgent, commanding them forward. The masked man spread his arms like a grotesque master of ceremonies, voice booming with glee. This is only the beginning. The true performance awaits. Ahead, a rotting wooden door creaked open, revealing a funhouse of mirrors. Thousands of distorted reflections stared back, bending and twisting like bodies drowned in red water. The blood moon's glow poured through the glass, every reflection rippling as though alive. A chill crawled up Alex's spine. The carnival was tightening its grip, and with every step, they had already wagered their own flesh. Neem, eyes. The mirror tent sealed shut behind Alex and Maggie, as if an unseen hand had slammed the door from outside. Dim crimson light seeped through the heavy canvas, scattering into endless shards across the mirrors. With every step, their reflections multiplied, dozens, then hundreds, stretching long, twisting grotesquely into shapes that no longer resembled human forms. The carnival's music faded into the distance, replaced by a soft undercurrent, like whispers bleeding from the glass itself. Alex halted, pulse racing. In the mirror's warped reflection, his face was no longer whole, one side splintered, his eyes black and glossy like glass on the verge of shattering. Maggie pressed onward, but her footsteps dragged across something sharp. Alex looked down and froze. The ground was no longer carpeted with dust and cloth, but covered in jagged fragments of glass, each shard streaked with dried blood. Maggie trembled, clutching the porcelain doll from before. The doll stirred in her hands, its cracked eyes fluttering open as if waking from a dream. Suddenly, a thunder of applause erupted. Both of them spun around. At the far end of the mirrored hall, a stage revealed itself, lit by a pallid glow. Dozens of spectators sat in silence. Their bodies were rigid, skin pale, eyes locked wide open. At first, they seemed like wax figures, but as Alex drew closer, dread curdled in his stomach. They were real, human.pie. Their souls had been hollowed out, leaving only husks. A few still breathed shallowly, lips twitching as if to beg for help, though no sound escaped. Maggie stumbled back, colliding with a mirror. The surface rippled, and another figure appeared, her reflection but hollow-eyed, its mouth slashed open in a grin that reached ear to ear. The reflection thrust its hand through the glass, clawing her skin. Purple welts spread across her arm, as though her very soul was being torn away. Maggie screamed, but the sound warped and dissolved, devoured by the maze. Alex dragged her free, only to find the stage empty. The silent audience had vanished, leaving behind rows of rotting wooden seats, stained with dark patches of blood. The air thickened, pressing down with the weight of countless unseen eyes. A laugh boomed from above, the laugh of the masked master of ceremonies. The audience is ready. The next act is yours. At once, the mirrors blazed with light, then cracked in unison. From the fractures burst blackened limbs, jointed and sharp, like the broken pieces of marionettes clawing their way out. The maze shuddered, splinters raining down, the shriek of breaking glass colliding with the chaos of carnival music. Alex fought wildly, blood smearing the mirrors as his hands were torn open. Wherever his blood touched, the shards ignited, glowing like fire. Maggie swung the porcelain doll at the creature's grasping arms, each impact unleashing a shrill, childlike wail that pierced the air. They pushed forward, desperation fueling their escape, until at last a narrow gap appeared, a passage out. They hurled themselves through it, tumbling onto damp, cold earth. Behind them, the mirror tent convulsed, then collapsed inward, vanishing into a void of nothingness. But the laughter remained. The MC's voice coiled through the air like prophecy, echoing inside their skulls. No one leaves before the carnival is finished. Yeah. They stumbled out of the mirror tent, breath ragged, their clothes smeared with blood and glass dust. Before them spread a vast square at the heart of the carnival, bathed in the crimson blaze of the blood moon. At its center lay a wide circle, etched in black ash and dried blood, encircling a tall wooden post, weathered, splintered, unmistakably an execution stake. Figures in black cloaks began to emerge, one by one. Each wore a cracked jester mask, teeth rotting and yellow beneath the fractured grins. They gathered slowly, their movements deliberate, swaying in rhythm as though locked in some grotesque dance. The carnival's music shifted into a funereal pounding, drums dull and hollow, like the heartbeat of the damned. Alex and Maggie crouched behind a decayed booth, watching. A young man was bound to the post, a filthy rag stuffed between his teeth. Blood trickled from his hands, raw flesh torn where the skin had been stripped away. His face was ashen, eyes wide with the last desperate plea of a man who already knew there would be no rescue. One of the cloaked figures stepped forward, voice booming, drawn out, reverberating like a sermon from beneath the earth. The blood moon rises. The pact is renewed. Blood for soul. Soul for endless delight. The crowd echoed the words in unison, a chant, ancient and steady, vibrating through the bones. Alex felt his veins turn cold. This was no game. This was ritual, older than memory, fed by sacrifice. The carnival lived, and it feasted on the living. The bound man thrashed as another masked figure approached. The weapon it carried was not a blade, not an axe, but a rod glowing with a sickly neon red, pulsing like a vein of fire. The rod pierced his chest. Light burst from the wound, not the light of blood, but the tearing brilliance of a soul being ripped free. His body collapsed, hollowed, nothing more than a husk. The crowd erupted in cheers, laughter clanging in brittle as iron scraping stone. Maggie shook, tears shimmering in her eyes. Alex gripped her hand, whispering hoarsely, "We have to escape before it's us." But even as he spoke, dread cut through him. The gate they had entered by was gone. Around them stretched only rows of booths, endless, a labyrinth with no way out. From above, the MG's voice descended, sharp and merciless, each word a decree. The newcomers have played their first game. The pact has claimed them. The next act is their sacrifice. As one, the cloaked congregation turned, dozens of cracked masks locking onto the shadows where Alex and Maggie hid. The sound of footsteps followed, slow and deliberate, pounding like the carnival's own heart. Alex drew in a sharp breath, clutching the blood-stained teddy bear, the cursed prize that had already tasted him. Maggie held the porcelain doll, its glassy eyes glittering as if infused with the soul it had devoured. They both knew now. The games had carried them too far. They were no longer spectators. Under the blood moon, they were the chosen offering. Now! Ow! The drums pounded like a colossal heart, their rhythm echoing across the carnival. The masked crowd closed in, hollow eyes fixed upon Alex and Maggie. At the center of the square, the execution post rose again, waiting for its next sacrifice. Alex gripped Maggie's trembling hand, feeling her fear vibrate through his own bones. He knew there was no escape. The gate was gone, the carnival sealed tight around them, like the jaws of a vast predator. The prizes they carried now pulsed with menace. The blood-stained teddy bear, the porcelain doll with burning eyes. They whispered in voices only he and Maggie could hear, urging them toward the circle of sacrifice. The masked mech emerged, towering, his shadow engulfing the square. His voice thundered, drawn out and merciless. The audience waits. The carnival demands a new act, and you, Alex, you will light the stage. Two cloaked figures lunged, seizing Alex in arms cold as iron. He fought, thrashing wildly, but their grip was unbreakable. Maggie screamed, rushing forward, only to be hurled aside. The porcelain doll shattered in her hands, and from its broken shell poured the shrill cries of children, echoing into the darkness. They bound Alex to the post. The blood moon blazed down, painting his skin in a suffocating red glow. The MC lifted the glowing rod, burning like a coal ripped from hell, and pressed it to Alex's chest. Agony ripped through him, but Alex did not scream. His gaze locked on Maggie, despair and resolve mingling in his eyes. "Run!" he roared, his voice folding into the thunder of drums. Light erupted. Blood and soul tore free, unraveling into ribbons of crimson that spiraled through the air. His body convulsed, splitting open, bones snapping, flesh melting into molten wax that dripped and hardened into something new. When the glow faded, Alex was gone. In his place stood a towering carnival effigy, a grotesque figure with hollow eyes and a smile carved impossibly wide. The crowd erupted, applause crashing like thunder, laughter jagged and metallic. The new performer bowed low, a grotesque parody of gratitude, as though Alex himself were welcoming the audience to his debut. Maggie collapsed to her knees, tears flooding her face. But the carnival allowed her no time to grieve. The torches guttered out, plunging the square into darkness. When light returned, the crowd was gone. The post had vanished. She was alone, stranded in the middle of a barren, windswept field. At her feet lay the teddy bear, its stitches soaked dark with Alex's blood. Its button eyes glowed faintly, like embers refusing to die. And Maggie understood. Alex had not escaped. He had been claimed, forever bound to the carnival. Far away, faint music stirred once more, Calliope notes curling through the night air. A promise that when the blood moon returned, the black carnival would open its gates again, waiting for the next curious soul to wander inside. O nay. At a dust-choked flea market, Nathan, a college student obsessed with vintage relics, uncovered a worn VHS tape labeled Home 1995. When he pressed play, his breath caught. The footage revealed the very house where he'd spent his childhood. At first, the scene seemed tender, familiar. Family birthdays, laughter, warm lights spilling across the kitchen table. But as the tape played on, faces began to blur into hollow shadows, and Nathan himself appeared in moments he had no memory of ever living. Nay, I'm Vin. Nathan had an unusual obsession, collecting obsolete electronics. While his friends spent money on the newest consoles or sleek sound systems, he sought out dust-caked relics, especially VHS players. He often joked that he had been born in the wrong decade, meant for the 1990s, rather than the age of the internet. One gray Saturday morning, Nathan wandered through a flea market on the outskirts of town. The sky hung heavy, the wind snapping tops against rusted poles, carrying with it the sour tang of metal and mildew. He drifted past a stall, cluttered with old pop CDs, cassette tapes, and stacks of unlabeled VHS cassettes, their plastic cases dulled and scratched. Among the chaos, one tape caught his eye. A black cassette with a yellowed sticker scrawled in marker, Home 1995. The vendor, a weary-looking man with hollow eyes, gave a dry chuckle when Nathan picked it up. That one used to belong to a strange family. If you want it, take it. Came in with a whole lot. No one dares play it anymore. Nathan frowned, but curiosity eclipsed doubt. He handed over a few dollars, slid the tape into his backpack, and made his way back to his dorm room. Inside, the battered VHS player sat waiting. As he wiped the dust from the case, he felt as if he were opening a door into the past. The television flickered, static hissing and growling until the picture steadied. A birthday party appeared on screen. A child leaned forward to blow out candles on a frosted cake, balloons bobbing in the background. Laughter echoed, warped but distinct. Nathan tilted his head. The kitchen in the video looked uncannily familiar. The wooden table, the pale yellow curtains, the red patterned tablecloth. They matched perfectly the house of his childhood in Michigan. His chest tightened. He tried to dismiss it as coincidence, but as the images sharpened, so did the memories. The old wall, clock, the vase his mother kept on the corner table. "No way," he whispered, eyes fixed to the glow. The tape jumped to a new scene, Thanksgiving dinner. A golden brown turkey glistened under the warm glow of a ceiling lamp. The family at the table smiled, laughing in casual ease. Everything seemed perfectly ordinary, until Nathan noticed a detail that froze his blood. In the corner of the frame sat a boy, silent, unmoving, his wide eyes staring directly into the camera. That boy was him. Nathan lurched forward, heart hammering. His memory was empty of this moment. He had never sat at a Thanksgiving table like the one playing before him.
But the turkey was looking
back. The face, the haircut, the striped sweater, there was no mistaking it. The screen rippled with static, then steadied again. Nathan's trembling hand stopped the tape. The room was deathly still, broken only by the low mechanical hum of the VHS player. He leaned back, dragging air into his lungs, telling himself it was all a bizarre coincidence. But deep down, he knew this was no ordinary home video. The tape wasn't just recording some forgotten family. It was reaching into him, into memories he was certain he had never lived. Yo. Nathan couldn't tear himself away from the tape. After the first night, he wrapped it up, shoved it deep into a drawer, and tried to forget. But by midnight, he lay restless, thoughts circling endlessly around the boy's face, his own face, caught forever on that grainy footage. Before dawn, unable to bear the pressure any longer, he snapped upright, slid the cassette into the machine, and pressed play. The black screen flickered, and a new scene bled through. The same house, but the light had changed, thicker, oppressive, as if shadows had swallowed the walls. The camera drifted across the dining table, where the family gathered. Nathan's breath hitched. His parents were there, unmistakably, but their faces blurred into smudged darkness, smiles warped into grotesque curves, their eyes nothing but deep black hollows. A chill spread through his chest. In the frame, the boy, his younger double, still sat perfectly still, rigid and silent. The camera crept closer, inexorably zooming in. The boy's eyes locked forward, staring not at the lens, but through it. Nathan felt the shift instantly. He was no longer watching. He was being watched. His hand shot out, slamming the pause button. The image froze, the faceless family stiff as wax dolls. Yet sound still leaped from the speakers, thin, rasping whispers, looping again and again. Not laughter, not background noise. Words, barely audible, but there. Come back, stay home. Sweat stung Nathan's forehead. He jammed the stop button. The screen fell into blackness. Silence closed in, broken only by the low mechanical hum of the VHS spinning down. He sat frozen, heart battering his ribs as if it wanted out. Those blurred faces, those hollow eyes, those voices calling him back. None of it felt like the record of strangers. It was his, bound to him, as though the tape had reached into his past and twisted it into something unrecognizable. With shaking hands, Nathan flooded the room with light, yanked the tape from the player, and locked it in his desk drawer. Out of sight, out of reach. But even in darkness, with wood and metal between him and the cassette, he could feel it waiting. Patient, demanding. And it would not stop until he pressed play again. That night, Nathan couldn't sleep. He lay rigid in bed, trying to banish the memory of those faces swallowed by shadow. But the harder he pushed them away, the tighter they clung. When exhaustion finally dragged him under, he slipped into a dream unlike any other. He was standing in the kitchen of his childhood home. A jaundiced light spilled from above, carrying the faint scent of turkey and sugared cake. Around the dining table, figures sat perfectly still, their backs turned to him. Silent, motionless, like statues. Nathan crept closer and placed a trembling hand on one shoulder. Slowly, the figure turned. There was no face, only a smooth, featureless void of black. He woke with a violent gasp, his back slick with cold sweat. But the sight that greeted him froze his heart. The dull glow of a television screen flickered across his dorm room walls. He was certain, absolutely certain, he hadn't turned it on. On the static screen, white noise danced and hissed. It can't play by itself, Nathan whispered. He sat up slowly. The picture sharpened. Not the childhood house this time, but his dorm room, his desk, his chair, even the tiny scratch on the wall, captured with perfect accuracy. His blood turned to ice. In the center of the frame stood an empty chair, positioned directly before the television, the very chair Nathan had been sitting in earlier. The image shook slightly, as if a hand held the camera and filmed in real time. Nathan lunged for the lamp switch, flooding the room with light. But he was alone. Heart racing, he yanked the power cord from the wall. The television should have died. It didn't. The screen glowed on, unwavering. The room within the image remained identical. And then, in the frame, a figure appeared. It slumped into the empty chair. A blurred silhouette, head bowed, shoulders trembling with the rhythm of a muffled laugh. Nathan staggered back, colliding with the wall. He blinked just once, and the picture collapsed into darkness. Static filled the screen again. He didn't dare move closer. For the first time in his life, Nathan understood that the border between memory, dream, and waking reality no longer existed. The tape was no longer showing his world. It was rewriting it. Yes. Nathan couldn't say when he'd finally fallen asleep. When he opened his eyes, the clock read nearly 3 in the morning. The room was a heavy, suffocating dark. Then a sound cut through it. Click, click. Steady, mechanical, like a tape being rewound inside the player. His heart pounded. He turned slowly. The VHS machine, unplugged, powerless, was running itself. The red power light blinked. The cassette spun, scraping with a dry, grinding hiss. Instinct shoved him forward. He lunged to yank the tape free. The moment his fingers brushed the plastic, the TV flared to life. No static now. The screen showed his room, clear, still, unnervingly precise, as if an invisible camera were filming every corner in real time. From the edge of the frame, a gray, ink-smeared hand reached for the empty chair. Long, crooked fingers trembled, leaving black smears like spilled ink across the fabric. Nathan froze. Sweat rolled down his temple. He looked toward the real chair in the room, empty. On the screen, the black shape lowered itself into the seat. A gaunt figure slumped forward, dressed in threadbare clothing from another age, hair matted over half its face. Its head turned, slowly, with a deliberate, bone-slow motion, fixing its gaze straight into the camera. And Nathan understood. It was looking at him. A new sound began, a slow tap, 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 as if someone were rapping a knuckle against the inside of the glass. The taps multiplied, quickening into a frantic staccato. Each knock made the screen tremble and warp, the glass seeming to strain as if about to shatter. Nathan backed away, legs trembling. The knocking grew louder, layered with a chorus of whispers, drawn out and pleading. Come back, come back. No longer buried in noise, but a single, unmistakable command. He screamed, lunged for the outlet, yanking cords free, tearing cables from sockets. The room should have gone dark. It didn't. The television burned on. The silhouette remained, seated, smiling with a mouth split open in a grin. From the screen, black blood began to seep, thick and glossy, trailing down the glass and pooling onto the floor of his room. Nathan collapsed backward, the world tilting. He felt trapped inside a door being forced open from both sides, one leading to everything he knew, the other to the warped memories the tape fed. That door was opening wider, and it was hungry for him. Nathan no longer knew where he stood. The dorm room warped and bled away, its walls sagging like melted wax before reassembling into crumbling brick, the walls of his childhood home. But it wasn't warm as memory had promised. It was ruined, dim, and suffocating with the stench of mold. In front of him sat the old television, its screen blazing white. The shadow was still there, but now it had taken a shape. The face was a grotesque reflection of Nathan himself, eye sockets hollow and endless, the mouth split wide, dragging back toward the ears in an impossible grin. "Nathan," the voice hissed from the speakers, buried in static. "You belong here." He tried to scream, to run, but his legs were nailed into the rotting floorboards. Each breath tore through his chest like shards of glass, cutting him from within. The screen flickered. Now it showed him another Nathan, sitting lifeless in the dorm room, eyes vacant, dried blood cracking at the corners of his mouth. That figure turned its head with deliberate slowness, staring directly into the lens, straight through the screen, straight into the trembling Nathan outside. And he understood. The exchange was complete. What remained in the world was an empty husk, while his true self was trapped forever inside the VHS tape. Then came the knocking. Thud, thud, thud. But this time, it wasn't from the television. It came from behind. He spun around. Every door in the ruined house creaked open. Beyond them sat the faceless figures from his dreams, motionless around the dining table. Together, they turned their hollow voids toward him. In that final collapsing moment, their mouths opened, and from their throats poured his own voice, cold, inescapable. "Welcome home." The television snapped to black, and the thick, dark swallowed everything. Maybe it our fault. Highway 666, the road renamed, yet the curse never left. In the endless desert night, trucks and cars vanished without a trace. Whispers speak of the hells chasing lost souls, and radios carrying the cries of the dead. Frank Harlow was no stranger to the dark. 30 years behind the wheel of an interstate rig had taught him how silence on the midnight highway could twist a man's thoughts out of shape. But tonight felt different. The fastest route to his delivery forced him through a stretch of asphalt, once marked by unnamed drivers, still spoke in hushed tones. Highway 666. The road signs had changed, the numbers replaced, but the memories and the rumors had not. Younger drivers whispered about headlights swallowed whole by the black, about scorched tire marks etched into the pavement as though clawed there by something unseen. Some swore they had glimpsed massive dogs, eyes glowing like burning coals, sprinting alongside 18-wheelers at 70 miles per hour. No proof was ever offered. No one laughed. That night, Frank pulled out of a rest stop just shy of midnight. His cab reeked of cigarettes and stale coffee. He flicked on the radio. Only static and garbled whispers met him. With a sigh, he switched it off, leaving nothing but the steady growl of the engine and the hiss of desert wind across the windshield. The highway stretched straight and merciless, desert shadows spreading on either side, an ocean of black with no light save for his twin yellowed beams cutting ahead. Frank sipped his coffee, his eyes darting to the rearview mirror. Empty. Yet the weight of being followed clung to him, pressing harder with every mile. A memory surfaced. Years ago, a fellow driver had vanished on this very stretch. His truck was found abandoned on the shoulder, the cab torn to pieces. Inside, nothing. No blood. No body. Just claw marks raked deep into the asphalt, trailing off into the sand. Frank shook the image away, but the deeper he drove, the heavier the air seemed, as though something unseen pressed against the glass. His headlights barely pierced a few yards ahead before the night devoured them whole. He eased back on the throttle and lit another cigarette. Through the thin veil of smoke, something flickered on the shoulder ahead, 2 faint red glows. They flashed, vanished, then returned. Eyes. Aye. Frank blinked hard, his heart pounding. He pressed his foot down. The speedometer climbed, the engine howled. Still, in the corner of his vision, those 2 red lights lingered, keeping pace with effortless calm. His hands locked white-knuckled on the wheel. Highway 666, renamed or not, had never needed a sign to mark its territory. Some places don't need names to haunt you. And Frank knew with every mile he pushed deeper that he had driven straight into its heart. Numin. Alcohol. The clock read just past 1:00 a.m. Frank had driven more than 40 miles without passing a single pair of headlights. The desert silence seemed to swallow even the roar of his engine. He switched the radio back on, anything to drown the feeling that he was drifting into some endless black pit. At first it was only static, the familiar hiss and crackle. He reached for the dial to shut it off when something slid into the noise, a guttural growl, low and predatory, like an animal stalking unseen in the brush. Frowning, Frank twisted the tuner. The frequencies shifted, but the sound remained. Worse, it blended with something else, a voice. Help me. Frank froze. The words were faint, distorted, buried under layers of static, but unmistakable. He leaned closer to the radio, disbelieving. Then the cabin filled with overlapping cries, screams calling out names, the shriek of brakes locking, the crunch of metal twisting on impact. The truck seemed to vibrate in sympathy with the sounds. Frank gripped the wheel tighter, eyes darting to the rearview mirror. For the briefest flash, he caught it, something slipping through the edge of his taillights. 4 legs, a stretched body, eyes burning red. When he looked again, the road was empty. The radio wailed with one long, piercing note, then fell silent. Frank inhaled sharply, palms damp with sweat. The old stories clawed at his mind. Drivers who swore their radios had come alive before the crash, replaying their own voices, pleading, screaming, begging. His headlights flickered. Along the right shoulder, a few dozen yards away, 2 shapes loped beside his rig. Not dogs. Not anything he had words for. Their backs rose as high as the cab's windows, their fur bristling black and gray, eyes glowing like coals whipped by wind. Frank slammed his foot down. The speedometer climbed, the wheels screamed against the asphalt, sparks bursting in his mirrors. But the shadows never fell behind. They held their distance, pacing him with effortless precision, as if toying with him. Then the radio snapped on again. A new voice emerged, rasping, frantic, gasping for breath. "They're coming. They won't stop." Frank's stomach turned to ice. He knew the voice. It was his own. The cab grew colder, desert air outside forgotten, replaced by a chill that cut to the bone. Frank's eyes locked on the endless stretch of blacktop, but his heart understood the truth. He was no longer alone on Highway 666. Ma. The clock ticked past 1 in the morning. The highway ahead devoured his headlights whole. No gas stations, no signs, no other travelers. Frank felt as though he were driving inside a loop with no exit, a stretch of road repeating itself forever. The engine's steady growl was no longer the loudest sound in the cab. From the radio came a storm of voices, pleas for help layered over the shriek of brakes, the crunch of tearing metal, and beneath it all, a guttural growl that crawled under his skin. This time, Frank didn't reach for the dial. He knew the truth. The radio would come alive whether he wanted it to or not. In the rearview mirror, the darkness stretched, unbroken. Then, a spark of red. Eyes, another pair, and another. Within seconds, the blackness behind him glowed like a pit of embers. An entire pack was following, silent, relentless, hungry. Frank yammed his foot down. The speedometer broke past 80. The truck shuddered violently, tires screaming against the asphalt. Still, the pack did not fall behind. They fanned out on either side, massive bodies keeping pace with impossible speed. Long tongues lolled from gaping jaws, teeth flashing white and wet in the glare of his lights. One lunged. Its claws scraped the steel door with a screech that tore through Frank's skull, leaving deep gouges that glistened like open wounds. He gritted his teeth, wrestling to steady the rig. One wrong slip and the 18-wheeler would become his coffin of steel. The radio erupted again, this time with laughter. A harsh, rasping laugh, like it rose from a throat scorched in fire. Between the bursts of static and mirth, Frank heard his name, whispered, and then shouted, over and over, each time closer. His heartbeat hammered against his ribs. Sweat poured down his neck, soaking his collar. He kept his eyes locked forward, refusing to look at the glowing eyes swarming beside him. Yet they filled his mirrors, dozens of predatory glares reflecting his every move. Frank no longer needed convincing. He was prey, and the pack was closing in. Highway 666 was no highway at all. It was a ritual, a hunt in which survival was never the prize. The truck wailed in protest, tearing through the night as though it too understood the futility. And deep down, Frank knew the worst had not yet come. The chase twisted into nightmare. Frank crushed the accelerator so hard his foot trembled, yet the needle crawled forward sluggishly, as though an unseen hand were dragging the truck backward. On either side, the hellhounds skimmed the tires, claws sparking fire as they raked the asphalt. One leapt, latching onto the side of the cab, its jaws sinking into the steel as if it were paper. Frank jerked the wheel, the rig lurching violently. The beast fell away, but another replaced it instantly. Their snarls and screeches rose like a chorus, blending with the engine's tortured roar, a sound on the brink of tearing itself apart. The headlights flickered, then died. Darkness swallowed him whole. From the radio came not cries for help, but the cacophony of catastrophe. Metal folding in on itself, brakes shrieking, voices cut short in mid-scream. Frank knew every sound, every detail, They were the same noises from years ago, the night his co-workers vanished without a trace. The cab grew icy. The rearview mirror no longer reflected the road, but shimmered with a raw, blood-red glow, like flames seen through smoke. Within it, warped faces surfaced, melted, disfigured, mouths stretched open in silent screams. Frank's heart pounded violently. His grip on the wheel tore skin, blood smearing the leather. He dared not blink. Suddenly, the highway ahead erupted into light, splitting open with jagged fissures, molten seams blazing like rivers of lava. Tires tore across the cracked surface, smoke and the stench of burning rubber flooding into the cab. The pack howled in unison, a dreadful symphony that shook the desert sky. In that instant, Frank understood he was no longer driving on Earth. The highway had transformed into a vein of living fire, dragging him into its heart. The radio broke once more, its voice low and desiccated, as though the road itself had spoken. "You have arrived." Frank screamed, but his cry was devoured, swallowed by the engine's roar and the unending howl of the hounds that echoed across the wasteland. "Nine, I." The sky grayed with the promise of dawn, but along that stretch of highway, the light never reached. As the first pale rays broke, a husband and wife pulled their car over, unsettled by the acrid stench of something burnt still hanging in the air. In the emptiness of the road lay a scar, the asphalt scorched black, twisted into a jagged streak that seemed to writhe across the pavement. Torn shreds of rubber clung to the shoulder, a few warped fragments of steel glimmered faintly, but nothing else. No oil slick, no blood, no wreckage, only silence. The husband muttered about a truck fire in the night, but his wife shook her head, her gaze fixed on something stranger. The black scar did not fade. It spread, pulsing outward like veins beneath the skin of the highway, seeping deeper into the asphalt as though alive. From the horizon, the wind stirred, carrying not the sound of traffic nor the whisper of desert sand, but a murmur. Low, ragged whispers. Dozens of throats rasping the name of someone unseen. The wife's pulse hammered as she rolled the windows shut, while her husband started the engine, desperate to escape. Their radio crackled, country music shattering into static. A hoarse, frantic voice cut through. "They are coming. Run!" The wife froze. She knew that voice. It was not a stranger's. It was Frank Harlow, the trucker who had vanished on this highway years ago, now echoing back from the darkness. The couple sped away, leaving the ashen scar smoldering in their wake. Behind them, Highway 666 swallowed every trace, as though nothing had ever happened. Yet in the shadows, the red eyes stirred again, waiting to fasten themselves to the wheels of whoever dared wander next. The highway does not end. It only waits. Naha.